It's November 11th.
November 11th.
Just to orient us, didn't we just start this like yesterday?
Yeah, we've taken the world through. We started in a pandemic. Now we've ushered the world through a possible cure or vaccine.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah, that was pretty great announcement. So let's see where that all ends up.
Yeah, it's quite emotional, isn't it? It's gonna rebalance. The world's gonna rebalance again through in a critical election this weekend. I'm in emotional tatters. I'm in emotional tatters.
It's like daily ups and downs. I wake up to some crazy ass news. I go to sleep to some crazy ass news, but I think we all do, right? But I'm gonna try something because we're almost at 150 subscribers to our YouTube channel. Woohoo! So before, I do it at the end, but like, as you're listening, people, right, or watching, hit that subscribe button because there's more of this craziness in a good way coming.
Right.
And then maybe like a couple of shameless plugs before we let our guest in, who is anxiously waiting already. So first of all, tomorrow is kicking off Frontiers Health, and I'm actually pretty eager to participate. Looks like a great session. Our friends Roberto, who's been on the show, is kicking it off.
We just picked up a couple of tickets, so we're looking forward to it.
Awesome,
so supporting the cause.
Awesome. And then, of course, a shameless plug right the week after, even though your coach is not a event company whatsoever, but we decided to share out to all the health coaching community. We're doing a global health and well-being symposium. So just in the beginning, any shameless plugs for you, Jim? I don't know.
I'm good this week. I feel I plug myself all day long. This is what the one is.
Just one final thing before we let this awesome gentleman in. You saw Matthew Holt, I think, tagged us on Twitter. Megaphone, which I'll explain for you. Probably don't even know what the hell it is. Got acquired by Spotify. So I'll tell you, Jim, and Dan Kendall walked me through this. Every podcast has its own space. Megaphone is one of those platforms. And basically all the podcasts that we publish, I know this is like, you just jump on and talk, right? I actually get some work done behind the scenes on this. So anyway, they acquired a platform, so Spotify. Yeah. So we're next. And that was, Matthew's comment, did we come with Megaphone as a purchase? And unfortunately, the answer is no.
Right.
Anywho, let's invite Unity Stoakes, so co-founder of Startup Health, great friend from good old New York days, and let's. I'm adding him in. Here we go.
Actually, Unity's the reason I'm wearing a jacket today, because I was thinking he's always so slickly dressed, so I think I'd put a coat on for Unity.
Are you hearing this?
And that's funny because I didn't wear a jacket today, so now I feel like I should have. I'm underdressed. How you doing?
I'm gonna be doing much better. It's 8 p.m. and I know Unity is way too early for you to drink, but I
have a smoothie, a green smoothie.
Nice.
I'm doing a little vermouth, Spanish style. So cheers.
Cheers.
Good to finally have you on this.
What's the expression? Whiskey versus scotch, so people know you're drunk, not stupid. So great to see you, Unity.
It's great to be here. I love the show. You guys keep it real every week and have a lot of fun while you do so. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I think of Unity as like he's one of the, like, we've got some the kind of founders or granddaddies of the whole digital health scene, not to age you, but that's how I think of you. This is how many years you've been digital healthing?
15. So my business partner, Steve, and I launched the first digital doctor's office, a company called Organized Wisdom that goes back 14, 15 years. And that's probably, Eugene, when we first started running the city together.
So Jim just aged us all, right? So I remember like the Esther Dyson days. I think she was one of the early investors in Organized Wisdom, right? If I'm not mistaken.
First investor in Organized Wisdom. And yeah, there was this early crew. I think, there was companies like Vitals, Zocdoc,
Right.
23andMe. There was just a few companies all kind of emerging around the same time. And then of course the Help 2.0 conference, the Help 2.0 meetups, so just, you're taking us back to the good old days that were so much fun.
Dude, I for some reason, I don't, I actually don't remember much. If you ask my family, it's like, I don't remember what the hell happened yesterday, right? But there's certain moments, and I just remember I think it was a PR Newswire's office, like one of the New York City Health 2.0, and you were kind of like a little bit on the outside, and I'm like, so what's up? Like, oh, we're thinking about, like, this is when you gave me a little bit of the startup health, like as you were hovering around there. Like, I just remember that moment, which was just, yeah.
And that was like pre-WeWork days where like we were all trying to find locations to host events or meetups, or like, hey, where can we all get together? It was like, and I remember the PR Newswire office, it had like one of the only conference rooms in the city where they would like share it. I don't know if you negotiated that, Eugene, or.
Yeah, it was Sandy at the time, Assolini. I went to executive MBA with her, and she was working PR and Newswire, and like, hey, use the space. I'm like, awesome, right? All of a sudden, we can fit like
these awesome pitches. Like 3-4 companies would just get up and pitch their kind of beta version of whatever we were doing. I think I demoed the Organized Wisdom card there.
DrChrono was born, as a pitch that went off too. So, man, we're really aging ourselves.
What was Organized Wisdom? What was it?
It was a digital doctor's office, and what we would do is really make it easy for really physicians to organize all the credible online information that they wanted to share with their patients.
Okay.
And it was about 15 years too early.
Right.
But it's just catching up right now today, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. And actually, Startup Health was born out of Organized Wisdom, and the same team and same backers, same investors and stuff. So it's been really, I don't think we would have been able to create Startup Health without that experience as being health tech innovators and entrepreneurs, and going through all those struggles in those early days.
I mean, we're all founders here, right? And I think, if you think about how we got this craziness started, is honestly just to keep our mental health, right? It was, Jim dragged me out to do this, from kind of under a whole pile of shit. And then I'm dragging him every week, every other week, whatever, right? So, and this is what I actually loved. I remember, I think you or Steve, for the first time I heard, like, around batteries included in the founders, where you need the energy to drive, but also taking a break, right, is super important. So I do want to touch on kind of your methodology or mentality at Startup Health and what you guys are urging, because this is so important.
Yeah, I mean, every founder knows the excruciating, lonely, long journey, the roller coaster, the ups and downs that happen not only every week, but every day, and sometimes 10 times throughout the day. So one of the things we preach is this concept of batteries included, and how important it is to surround yourself with batteries included people that, there's people like, they walk into a room and they either bring energy with them or they drain energy out of the room. It's like a binary. Before that, I used to call it faucets and drains. There's like two types of people in the world. There's faucets and drains. Batteries Included is really about that. And if your mindset is constantly being filled up with other Batteries Included people on your team,
Right.
Your family, your relationships around you, your business customers and partners, then it makes that struggle and that journey manageable. But if you're constantly being nibbled at and drained and punched and beaten up with a baseball bat every day, like entrepreneurs are, and basically told no 1,000 times in a row every single day, it's just so hard. It's really hard. So we really preach Batteries Included. We also, one of the things we talk about is the importance of taking time off.
Right.
Most entrepreneurs think it's a great thing to work 7 days a week, 365, or many entrepreneurs think it's just the more you work, the better it is. But we try to take weekends off and sleep and rejuvenate and recharge the batteries. If you know.
You know, it's interesting because I got a comment the other day is like, you're doing so much stuff, right? And I'm like, actually, no, I'm like, my focus is on your coach and the other little things that I do like this. And I don't mean to belittle us, Jim, by the way.
Don't belittle us.
You know, this is just fun and it takes you out. And this is again for mental health, right? Like the book writing, it's for mental health. Like it's a hobby, right? And so just because I'm out there talking about it, that doesn't mean that it's work, right? People I think also confuse work with fun sometimes, which is crazy.
Yeah, like my wife gets so frustrated because, frustrated with me for a lot of reasons, but she gets frustrated because, I did lose you guys. She gets frustrated because I just have a blast doing what I do, right? Like, so I get energy in, or even like I'm saying, I got to go talk to Eugene for Shot of Digital Health. And she's like, what are you doing? What's the...
I'm going to have a conversation with Emmy then.
No, she just thinks I'm hanging with my friends, or she thinks I'm doing it. I'm like, I totally am, but I've somehow made that work, so it's a bit of like, because it keeps me fresh. But I have to ask you this though, Unity, like, have you ever, or I think you like about taking time off, right? Like when we moved from, I was living it was in New York City or just outside of New York City. And we moved to Dublin, Ireland. And we felt like we had permission for the first time. Like she works in a big bank and I was working in pharmaceuticals at the time. But when we came to Europe, we felt like we had permission to take time off. And I don't know, do you feel that way, Eugene, or do you no?
It's been like 10 years now, almost in Europe. Right. So I don't remember how it was. And to me, I mean, I'll be frank with you guys. Like I've been just on, and I actually remember one of my most viral LinkedIn posts that was like almost Gary Vaynerchuk numbers is when I said publicly, I'm taking off. There's an awesome team behind me and next to me and in front of me, and I'm not a blocker. And this thing went viral, right? So my point is a little bit like there's always a balance, and only about a couple of years back, I decided like you need to actually take a break. Right. So I don't know if it's a Europe thing. I mean, Unity, you're on the ground in US, but I actually think that mentality is changing in US too a bit. I hope.
Yeah. And now it's like everybody's on all the time, and not everybody, but a lot of people at home. So it's like, it's interesting what you're saying, because what is taking time off? If you're doing things you love, that can be rejuvenating. But one of the things that happens to me is I'll go take a walk or a hike or go to the beach, and all of a sudden my mind starts exploding with innovative ideas. I solve problems. It's like all of a sudden. So you think you're taking time off, and you're kind of all of a sudden freeing up yourself to be more productive.
Yeah.
So I go, and then I want to dive in a little bit more into startup health, but I go running now, right? I kind of picked it back up again, and I either go to focus on something because I'm in the zone and I'm like, all right, this problem that I want to just solve, and I'm to myself, or the other way around, I constantly say, I'm going for a run to just free my mind. And of course, then I come back and I kind of wish that I had Neuralink, right? That would just like suck all the crazy ideas that as I'm running. So
Yeah, I told you one of my ideas was what was it, kind of
like a capsule around your head.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like a Siri, like, or a Alexa on your head, you could just talk to it and shoot the idea into it.
We'll get there. We will get there.
So, I'm sure in the startup health portfolio, which your coach is also part of, for full disclosure to everyone.
Very excited about your coach.
Would love to actually hear what you guys are seeing on the front lines. And I know we're not allowed to say the word, but I believe that you guys kind of been saying, you and Steve, like decades happen, right? Or nothing happened for decades, and now things just happen. I don't know the term, you use it. Yeah. What's happening with the startups? And
it's an extraordinary moment. I mean, when we set out with Startup Health, it was started as a 25-year plan. And back in March, what we started to see in even the first few weeks was decades of progress happened in weeks.
Right.
And that trend has really, really continued. We've seen there's all these macro things happening at the same time. And so it's not just a pandemic world. It's 5 or 6 or 7 things that are happening. First of all, just the concept that health is now the number one universal topic globally on everyone's mind. And whether it's in business or in your personal life or whatever, just the concept of health. And we're now in this new, we call it an AC world. It's BC and AC now. So everything is through this new lens of an AC world. Yeah. And I think that's significant. The concept that demand has.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Is it also BT and AT before Trump and after Trump?
But there we go. That's one of the big things too. I mean, there's a new political landscape, and yes, that happened in the US, but everyone I've talked to overseas in the past few days, it's like there's a sigh of relief in a lot of ways globally. So I think the implications of that are still to be determined, but we know from the new administration's speeches already that healthcare, cancer, Alzheimer's, these types of issues, post-pandemic, pandemic response, are going to be a priority. And we saw that during the Obama administration, what that meant, what that meant for innovation, what that meant for entrepreneurs. So there's just this wave of transformation. But I would say the most significant things we started to see very quickly across our portfolio was not just the funding and fundraising that's been kind of accelerating for the past 10 years, but adoption of digital health solutions overnight went to a new level. So we all know about things like telehealth and virtual care, where in a health system going from 2% to 80-90% adoption, that is having a profound effect because everyone's becoming habituated to the innovation that's been around for 10 years. They're now using it. Physicians are using it. Systems are using it. Consumers are using these solutions and getting used to the way we're using Zoom now. They're for the first time using and adopting these things, and that's translating down to faster sales cycles, new adoption of solutions, and I think that will bring a big wave of innovation as a result.
But how does that all translate to in terms of the pitches that are coming at you and the ones you're choosing to invest in? Because are you still pretty early? You're still early. You're still kind of.
Yeah, we got 350 companies in our portfolio from 26 countries, ranging from 2 people in a garage or a lab all the way to a Series C stage company. So,
right. But were you with those Series C all the way through? Is that why you're with them, or do you still tend to enter early?
We tend to enter early and then grow and develop for as long as it takes, which is usually a long time. And it's an interesting point, because one of the trends we're seeing is there's almost a tale of 2 cities. There's those that are thriving and those that are recalibrating and needing to recalibrate swiftly.
Right.
In some cases, full on pivots. In other cases, what do we do? So there's those that are thriving, and anything in virtual care, telehealth, obviously anything that's pandemic response related, is tending to thrive. Those organizations that already were embedded with a big customer base are expanding that. But there's also a lot of challenges with people breaking through the noise,
Right.
trying to figure out, wow, do I need to go to a new type of customer? Hey, I'm selling into school systems. What do I do? Schools are closed, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of real-time recalibration. What I'm seeing is those startups, those organizations that think of innovation, and I call it streaming innovation, where they're basically just flowing. Every 24 hours at this point is almost a new evolution from, it's like a year happening in a day.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But
So that must streaming. Boom, boom.
I've never felt more productive or more innovative or more, kind of idea generating. And I see it within my team, and it's like this plethora. It's like the abundance of opportunity. And I'm spending a lot of my time, which is unlike me, trying to refocus and refocus and refocus.
That's because none of us are traveling. We're staying put. There's so many hours and hours and hours saved.
Yeah, that we're thinking all the time, and that
we're now just. I mean, I would think on a plane too, right? But it's just. Right. I mean, there's just so much time now.
Yeah, but Fantastic. And I think, I mean, Unity, when you're looking at that, like, so that must bring a different level of stress. Like you say, like I wonder, like take like Eugene and you guys working with Marina and Eugene on your coach. So you've got very established, you got people established with a real purpose and kind of going at it. Are the entrepreneurs going to tend to be much older with 10, 20 years of experience now? Because it's
who are you calling old? Old man.
We got, I mean, we love serial entrepreneurs. We got about 1/3 of our portfolio serial entrepreneurs.
Okay.
They tend to do really well. And there's also a lot of doctorpreneurs entering space. That's kind of been a trend developing the last few years. Clinicians, people with health backgrounds, a lot of awesome people coming from the industry side of things. Like Eugene was, doing all sorts of innovation at big pharma and now innovating in the kind of early stage innovation space. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, to have that kind of understanding from the industry, the big industry, and then translate that.
How do you poke a bear?
There you go.
Without getting.
Because you see where the roadblocks are, you see where the challenges are, and where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah.
That was a poke.
Poke. Yeah. So, something you said around just diving back a little bit into the administration, which, still obviously shaky, but we've already seen the pandemic response. Atul Gawande was named to the pandemic response. Wait, he's been saying pandemic. Is pandemic not a word that we can say either?
epidemic. He captivated me with the pitch or whatever, so I wasn't listening. I didn't notice. I just
all right, fine. The thingy that's going on. But anyway, I just a little side note. So I'm watching Biden's pretty empowering speech, right? As the network's cold, and then I'm looking at the stage and I see Mr. Howard Krein walking off.
Yeah.
So I like zoomed in. Are you ever going to see the guy at Startup Health?
Howard is extraordinary. So Howard Krein is our chief medical officer. He was on stage because he's the son-in-law of Joe Biden. He's just this extraordinary. He's like a true physician. He's still practicing. He's a head and neck cancer surgeon at Thomas Jefferson University. So that he is focused most of his time working with patients. And then he gets to spend a lot of time with startups and really and has done for the past decade in really providing that clinician's perspective, which has been invaluable to us. So yeah, we get to see him once a week or so, but he's busy with patients or on stage somewhere. But it's really great to see and learn from him as well, and learn from the clinician's perspective. And he's very optimistic about where things are going and the future of health and really what's coming over the down the pike here for big things like cancer and Alzheimer's and chronic disease and these things. I mean, there's a lot of optimism. I know in the world today we tend to get, there's all this day-to-day influx of challenges, but at the same time, there's a lot of progress being made. I mean, just this whole story with, and I know we don't want to use the C word, but how about the V word, vaccine?
All right. I like it.
And the husband and wife team from BioNTech, started 2 years ago, an upstart, working with Pfizer, but an upstart really bringing their innovation to the table. That
saving humanity.
I think this is all, I'm sorry, Jim, but this is all coming down to husband and wife teams. Right,
yeah.
Unity. We just had a review, for our symposium. We and thank you for that connect with Dean and Ann Ornish. Right, they're doing great things in lifestyle medicine, BioNTech. Jim, you got to get Emmy into Health Beacon.
She'll outmaneuver me 10 different ways. I gotta.
You always want to bring somebody on board that's better than you, right? That's the leadership lesson number 1.
I just couldn't afford her.
I loved your episode where you guys had the families on and your kids came on and your wives were on. That was a great one.
That got one of the most views. I can't get. We took it down to that much. We married up and they're much better looking than us. That was
anytime we bring our better halves on, I think they did some episode appearances here and there. It spikes up. I'm telling you.
Yeah, at the beginning, because Unity, at the beginning we were doing this, we would do little kind of viewing parties with the family because we were just getting a kick out of it. So we were just critiquing. They pretty much were mocking me and Eugene. Our families were. And critiquing.
Plus, they probably all have huge social followings. They can just amplify what you guys are doing, and there you go. All of a sudden, you got massive distribution there with the whole family.
The funny thing is actually not so much Adina, my older one, but the younger one, Shane's friends actually comment to her. They actually watch us, Jim.
Really?
Yeah. So we got that demographic covered.
So you can tell the social situation now is really desperate that they have to watch us. I think we were called the Muppets at one stage, right? What was that?
I don't even remember what we've been called, man. Like we should actually transcribe the shit out of all of the episodes.
Okay, but you got to give me the read here though. So I've actually found, without just being apolitical, but political in the same breath, is I found that in the States that there's been a lot of good activity. Like we like with Health Beacon, with my technology, we've got a lot of nice little pathways that are happening, like around Medicare, remote patient monitoring codes, like around, FDA breakthrough status, and like all, it's like a lot of the digital health, kind of whatever. There's a lot of good kind of pathways and acceleration there. And so what happens now? What do you think changes? What's the prediction?
I think there's been, just look at like both the regulatory environment as well as the payment. Those are two other things where there's been a lot of progress recently, where just basic things where another company that started around when we did was American Well. And
Roy.
Yes. And the two brothers there founded that, seeing them run around, and they were trying to do, 50 different states, 50 different regulatory hurdles, and seeing some of that landscape change and be more streamlined, both in the US, but also globally in some cases, has been and will continue to be transformative.
Right.
The payment reimbursement. I mean, the fact that there weren't like reimbursement for things like telehealth before is just nuts. So you start to see that change, and that's really, when the payment models change and reimbursement changes and adoption layered in, that's where the real innovation starts to translate to impact. And that's what's exciting. So I think we're certainly in the US, we're seeing a lot of that. But I would say there's signs in our portfolio where there's a lot of global progress being made. And I think the regulatory aspect's going to continue to accelerate in hopefully the new administration.
Great.
So I know we haven't, somehow all the roads always led us to some JPM related bar. And I know we've talked a little bit about this before, Jim, but I'm actually curious to hear from Unity, because when I heard JPM, right, it's like I heard the suits and kind of the more typical, which is nothing wrong with that. That's driving the economy and outcomes. But then when you hear digital health, you automatically pretty much associate it during JPM startup health. Where are you guys head? I mean, obviously it's not happening in a physical format. Just thoughts, any hints for our audience?
We're doing a couple of things. One, we're going to do a Health Transformer Week during the same week as JPM. It's going to be virtual, and it's going to have a focus theme every single day. It's not going to be one of these sit in front of your computer for 12 hours and watch Zoom. There's going to be short virtual programming each of the 5 days, and that's Health Transformer Week. And then we're going to try to do something a little different, which is translate the festival to be an ongoing thing throughout the year. So what does that mean? We're starting to do things like monthly short virtual showcases, 60 minutes in and out, kind of virtual programming, and really just translate the best parts of the festival that can be conducive to a virtual world. And just why constrain it to 1 week? Just continue it on through the year. And then once we're all meeting in real life again, we're gonna have the biggest damn party you guys have ever seen. So we're gonna try to keep the things going, but we're gonna kick off in early January with Health Transformer Week.
Okay. And are you missing because we haven't really got to know each other that well over the years, but I've certainly seen you're at a lot of events. Are you missing, like Eugene is?
Yeah, I miss being around people, in real life. It's so much of building an ecosystem and innovation is around the relationships and the things that happen when you're walking down the corridor together or sitting at lunch or whatever. So I definitely miss that. But there's a lot of other benefits. Like I'm just trying to look at the positive aspects of this time frame. I love being home at dinner with my family. I love walking my kids to school in the morning. I like not being on an airplane. I love a lot of those things, but I do miss the conference circuit. I mean, there was like 10 things every year I just really looked forward to. In fact, Frontiers.
10 things a month. No.
What's that? Yeah,
10 things a month.
Well, I did 10 things a month. I only looked forward to one of them.
I know.
The Frontiers conference in Berlin. I'm going to be speaking at that on Friday.
Tomorrow, man, or Friday. Yeah, we before we let you in, we pimped out Frontiers.health earlier. So
we go. Okay. So that was one that I meant. Like I always like to be in real life, in person.
Right.
JPM week. That was like the kickoff to the year for us. I missed that. But we'll get back there soon enough. So just trying to use this time as productively as possible and spend as much time with my family as possible too.
Awesome. Wow. So I'm the negative Nancy with the timekeeping. Can you believe that, Unity?
You're on time. How much time do we?
We try to keep it between 30. We always aim for 30 minutes, but it just never works for 30 minutes. So we're good. So on that note, really appreciate your appearance.
Maybe give one like for the startup, like the one piece of advice, since you see so many startups coming through, and like in terms of like what to focus on right now. What are you thinking?
I think staying in the game, just to ride it out, stay in the game, recalibrate, deep breaths. Like it's so many things are moving and changing and dynamic and moving so quickly that the whole key right now is to just persevere through it and keep in the game through it. And then coming out on the other side, you're going to win. One of my favorite books for entrepreneurship is called The Dip by Seth Godin. Highly recommend The Dip. And basically it talks about the roller coaster and the peaks and valleys, and many entrepreneurs, they love going up the roller coaster and then goes down and then starts to go down, and then they quit somewhere down here, but there's another peak after that and you just got to ride it up.
I don't know, like in the typical roller coaster, that's when you get the high though, when you go down like really fast.
Right. And then they quit somewhere at the bottom. It's going back up and they're so sick and tired and whatever, and then scared of the next one. But awesome. Just perseverance, just riding it out and staying in the game would be my number one advice. Because the future, and sorry, I know we're running low on time, but I mean, this is just the beginning. Like we started 15 years ago. Like this is day one still of where health innovation is going. This is not even the beginning of where things are going. I mean, you were talking about Neuralink and beaming stuff up. I mean, that's where we're going. We're going to a whole nother realm, but that's going to take time. So yeah, a lot of progress was made over the last 8 months, decades of progress, but we're going to see that exponential acceleration, and the next 10 years are going to be extraordinary for everyone who's in the game.
Love it.
So I appreciate, I love The Dip. I added it. I've heard about it. And actually just this morning, I listened to one of the later podcasts, Tim Ferriss podcast, right, with Seth Godin on it. And out of the almost 2 hours, that was a long one, the one thing I picked out what he said, and I think this is kind of echoing a little bit Unity. He said, especially to entrepreneurs, what would you do even if you knew that you would fail it? Like, what would drive you, right?
Right.
And I think that's what separates, people that like, fuck, I really, really want to do this and try it, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
That's great. This is great. It ties into Lee Shapiro from last week, right? The digital health superpowers. So we're getting high-end motivational stuff here. So it's great.
This is the time, people.
Well, you guys are awesome. I love the perspective you guys bring. Like I said, you keep it real, you make it fun, and you provide a lot of insights for people. So I'm glad you guys are doing this this show.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
And
Thanks
hit
for
the
having me.
subscribe button, people. Hit it.
Cool.
Cheers.
Cheers.